Tuning you in now to the LBX show with your host, Brandon Wiley. Brought to you by the LBX Collective, your community to connect, engage, and inspire.
All right. Well, welcome everybody to the next edition of the LBX show. This is number 26 for April 27th, 2025. I'm your host, Brandon Wiley, and we have a great show, a much more robust show lined up for you today than last week. So first, we're going to kick things off with a little compact news you should know. Is one little thing I want to talk about. And then we're going to roll right into an open and shut with Kevin Williams. And then promo pro tips with Chuck DeMonte, where he's going to talk about awareness being at the top of your marketing funnel. He'll also explain a little bit about what a marketing funnel is if you're not sure of that. And then we're going to have Arcade Corner with Adam Pratt. He's going to discuss 2 new upcoming arcade pieces. And then we finish off with Game On with Justin Michaels. And this is a new segment. We had him on for a guest gab a couple of weeks ago to talk a little bit about some redemption. And we've now decided we're going to do a regular segment with him, not every week, but every other week or so. We'll have him on, and he's going to talk about things going on in your game floor. So, how to manage your game floor, how to generate more revenue from that. So we call it Game On with Justin Michaels. And this week he's going to talk about crane tips and best practices. All right. That being said, let's dive right into some news you should know. All right, so the first thing we're going to talk about is the fact that we've got Amusement 360 coming up here. So Amusement 360 is put on by the group over at Creative Works, and it is always in Indianapolis, Indiana. And the next session, I guess the next Amusement 360 coming up is May 6th to 8th, so it's only 10 days away. Actually, I think by the time you're watching this, it is only 8 days away. So make sure that if you have not registered yet and you want to check it out, highly recommend it. It is a great program. I've been to it a number of times. And it is amusement360.com. It's amusement360.com if you want to register. But yeah, definitely check it out. I always have great speakers and great content. So that is Amusement 360. All right. So next, I want to just imagine this. Imagine that it's a Friday night. It's 1995, if you can think back that far. And, it's one of the best things you could do on a Friday evening. And, and this is to go to a Blockbuster video and rent the hottest movie. And how many times would we just wander around the video store and checking out all the, the new VHS and then eventually the DVDs and everything else. Well, fast forward to 2025 and it looks like you're back in the same store, but this time you're trapped in a place called Lockbuster Video, where you must escape the clutches of the manager hounding you for late fees, and the clock is ticking. So this is a new immersive escape room by a group called 62 Escape. They have a number of different locations open in Gurnee and in Milwaukee, and they've got a location at Woodfield Mall in suburban Schaumburg, which is a suburb of Chicago. And it's a whole new thing. So I'm going to pull up some pictures of what this looks like. And it's pretty cool. It's pretty well done, actually. So it looks just like a Blockbuster video, the same blue lighting, the same blue, and even the logo is pretty good. They just cut off the B for Blockbuster video and just a Lockbuster in the video in the logo. So this is a little bit of the the checkout area. And so anyway, it's pretty well done. It's very similar. They actually have the same concept, the same escape room in their other 2 locations as well. But there's actually an animatronic guy who's talking throughout the whole thing, and so giving clues and different things. So there's a whole weird, creepy robot clerk. And then, there's really creative stuff going on. There's not a lot of pictures available online for it, but this is definitely something pretty cool. And then in the Schaumburg location, so they have a number of other escape rooms too. This is just the most recent version that they've opened. But in their Schaumburg location, they actually have a place called the Putt Portal. And so this is I think of this logo will scroll for a little bit, and then it'll eventually start showing a little bit more of the whole thing. But They basically built a mini golf. There's 9 holes of mini golf, and each hole is based on a different escape room from all of their different locations. And so they have some of the puzzles as well from the locations. And that's obviously going to include the Lockbuster video, but then also has some other nostalgia themed rooms. They've got one called Cheesy's Pizza Party. That's actually one of their escape rooms, and it's like a creepy ripoff of Chuck E. Cheese. But I thought this mini golf was very well done. I mean, they built all custom cabinetry, custom designed games, and it's like the quality of the craftsmanship is actually really well done as well. So again, you just don't see this type of like custom mini golf that has this level of fidelity and quality. And so I just thought that it was worth bringing up. And if you're in the Chicago area and you're heading out to the Schaumburg Mall, definitely recommend you check out Putt Portal Mystery Golf. All right. That is all we've got for some news you should know. And coming up next, we'll have a short break and then roll right into Open and Shut with Kevin Williams. Intercard is the only cashless system designed, developed, and manufactured all under one roof. They introduced cashless technology to the amusement industry and have been leading the way for over 30 years. Cashless systems from Intercard increase customer spending, guest satisfaction, and boost revenues by up to 30%. Intercard is so proud to be serving the amusement industry, and if you aren't already part of their global family of customers, they hope you will become one soon.
Hey, big hello to everyone to the latest Open and Shut. Bit condensed, this latest one, because missed out a week, and so we put all of them together, but still quite a lot of them to go through, which we will do right now. So in the openings, again, pause the video if you need more details on the ones that I'm going to zip past. But we'll jump straight in with a brand new competitor to our friends at Topgolf. Not just Topgolf, there's about 4 or 5 shooting range golf operations out there trying to eat from the same bowl, as it were. And this latest one, 504s, has been in development for some time. And they've raised about 40 million. Some of that has gone into the development of this first facility in New Orleans. The rest of it, I think, has gone into a dedicated plan to try and come up with a rollout of this operation. And they claim that they're going to be a little bit more different than the traditional shooting range target-based system. We will have to wait and see.
Yeah, I don't know how these guys expect to be differentiated from Topgolf or anything else, and I don't know. This seems to be a losing proposition, but hopefully, if New Orleans doesn't have a Topgolf, they'll do all right.
There's a strong possibility that this could be created as a takeover position, which is, we do know that Topgolf has divested itself from Callaway and has a number of issues that it is going through at the moment, and maybe the investors that have plowed 40 million into this feel that they can leverage that. Either way, we have a new entrant in the field. Moving on, and it's nice that we're getting to see technology being applied in a kind of mule, my favorite word, mule application. But here we're seeing a unique application of a multi-entertainment environment, a bit of laser tag, a bit of VR karting, which is unusual. We go into a little bit more detail about that in Sound Off. It also has escape rooms and karaoke and amusement. So again, a mixed use, a little bit focused more on the competitive socializing, social entertainment side rather than the FEC side, and bringing something new to the Brussels market. We're looking forward to seeing how this 4,500 square meter facility actually does. But they're pushing their VR very heavily, both with their go-karting and their VR arena space.
Yeah, and it looks like they have some of your standard regular socializing stuff as well. They have some adventure rooms, so yes. This is a pretty big mixed, well, like you said, pretty big mule actually, given the number of different attractions they have available.
The idea behind a mule is that you try and offer a multitude of experiences that are going to increase the dwell time of your audience at the facility. From what they have here, it's the spaghetti syndrome, which they have a bit of everything, and we're going to be concerned to see what sticks and what doesn't stick. Having a children's climbing frame on top of a laser tag, on top of VR, on top of amusement, on top of
karaoke and hyperbowling, and come on, yeah.
And it's difficult to also get across to your audience what you're actually offering, what is your USP, your unique selling point. Mm-hmm. But it's their first facility. They've come up with an unusual name, Big C. I'm sure there's a story behind that. We'll look forward to see how that fares in the market, especially as they've got a virtual reality karting experience. And that is one of the first proper VR arcade karting installations that we've seen in the market to date. So a lot of eyes on this one. The addition of location-based entertainment within existing environments. We see at Cologne Zoo, they have decided to add a dinosaur exhibit or experience, and they've gone for a VR dinosaur experience. The Dino VR Time Ride has people going through, putting on head-mounted displays and being taken through a virtual tour of the age of the dinosaur, quite a large age. It has free roaming as well as seated VR experiences. And from my point of view, this is them adding immersive entertainment to an already existing venue. Another example of the new competition that entertainment facilities have to be mindful of that can pop up in your back garden. Another VR arena facility. This one includes not just free roaming VR, but it also has some amusement, some trampolining, as well as VR esports. So a bit of everything. Our friends at Phenomena have been rolling out a number of additional VR esports, their EVAs, esports, virtual entertainment arenas dotted around Europe. And I'm mindful that we're at that stage in the market where you've really got to have a strong audience appeal if you're going to be dropping in any kind of VR technology into your entertainment mix. I would say that Pulse Arena is a mule, but I would also say that it is leaning heavily on its VR aspirations as well. Moving on, and it's interesting to move into the XR field away from just dealing with VR. In the XR field, we also have mixed reality, projection mapping, and we see our friends at Arcade Arena dropping in one of their latest, what I would call an immersive enclosure. It is a bit of a mixture of mission room with skill gaming, with tracked projection environment, all in an attraction package. It's going into this already existing facility in St. Louis. My interest here is that the kinds of immersive enclosure systems that we're seeing being deposited into the market at the moment, they are offering a certain level of engagement, a certain level of entertainment, from Valo Motion to InnoWise and all of this. And we haven't really been reporting as much about our friends at Arcade Arena, and I'd like to thank them for reaching out to me and telling us about this new opening.
Yeah, this is an interesting addition to the Adventures of Intrigue. So I'm familiar with those. I'm familiar with both Arcade Arena and Adventures of Intrigue. In fact, I'm actually speaking with their with the founder and CEO of Arcade Arena later today. But the Adventures of Intrigue, I mean, they have a really cool like exploratory space, escape room, almost more like an escape adventure. And so that's what's interesting, that they dropped this in maybe just as an additional attraction, but it is seems a little bit like a tangential, like orthogonal, actually, almost addition to their type of mix.
If you'll forgive me, I'll say an oblique move.
Yeah, oblique. Yeah, okay. Orthogonal, oblique. Yes, exactly.
There's a decision process that some operators make, which is they don't want to be too specialized to one particular niche clientele, and that they feel that if they can broaden their church, as it were, then by offering something that is totally oblique to their entertainment offering. I would call, I have an issue. You have escape rooms, you have mission rooms, you have command rooms, and you have adventure experiences. They all fall into the same LARP kind of live action role play experience, either with or without a game master or a director. And this particular version of the experience, I think that they're looking at what kind of entertainment that they can offer beyond their adventure areas. Again, we're looking forward to seeing what type of impact this will have on the market. And please give them my regards when you speak to them.
I will.
Thank you. Moving on, and we have Zoga, I think is the best way to pronounce it, French operation, and another immersive entertainment environment that has lent heavily on the use of battle cards, the projection mapped environment. It has, again, our friends from the EVA esports free roaming experience from Phenomena, and a little bit of amusement and competitive socializing and F&B. 4,200 square meters. It's quite a large operation, and I get the feeling from the way it's being promoted by this French operation that they're looking at it as a possible rollout of a chain of operations.
Yeah. I love Eva, by the way. I mean, I had a chance to actually play it for the first time in Dallas at Salem's location, and it was thoroughly enjoyable, and I worked up a sweat as well. And it was just he and I playing together. It's a great experience, VR experience.
As an esports arena game experience, it goes far beyond. It sits. I would argue that they're actually hiding a lot of their benefits under a bushel. They're not really promoting it correctly. I've had long conversations with the Phenomena guys about how they need to push their product, because it is much more than just an esports VR arena game. It is quite an active entertainment workout.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Our friends at Home Run Dugouts announced their latest installation. Funny enough, the College Baseball Hall of Fame in Kansas has been getting a lot of interest because of some of the exhibits in the facility. They are one of the first, I would call, visitor attractions to have a pure AI-themed entertainment experience, which we talked about in our IALPA Orlando coverage last year. And now they've parachuted in a version of the Home Run Dugout baseball system, both to offer their audience a baseball game experience, but also to have a kind of competitive socializing private hire components that they can add to their mix. It will be interesting to see how many facilities look at the Home Run Dugout platform as a competitive socializing drop-in, the same way as a Flight Club darts system or shuffleboard, and how many of them will look at it as a standalone entertainment offering. We talk about this a little bit more in detail in the sound off. We have now seen the phenomenal success of the Minecraft film, a Minecraft movie, and we see a number of pop-up installations being dotted around Europe, North America. We have the first of the North American ones opening in Texas, surprise, surprise, Texas, with the Minecraft experience. It is not unusual that a property or an IP like this would be looked at by one of those operations wanting to do a pop-up installation entertainment experience. The unique thing about this rollout is that it has a lot more gamification. There's a lot more interactivity in this live experience. I was looking at it originally as if it was similar to Monopoly, king size or life size. But I think it's fair to say that this is its own entity. And again, based upon the popularity of the film, as long as they don't have a chicken jockey moment in there, I think this could be a little bit longer lasting than your traditional pop-up experience. Another VR experience system, but here we're talking about the rebranding and the repositioning after an M&A moment. Our friends at Dream Away merged with Elucity. These French operations offer VR experiences. The Dream Away side is much more of a focused free roam VR. On the same kind of level as Sandbox VR and Zero Latency, where Elucity, I should have learned how to say that name by now. Elucity, thank you, is more of a mixed VR entertainment space. Anyway, they've been rebranding and repositioning themselves. They have 16 chains out dotted around France and Europe, I think, and they've now rebranded and positioned themselves and spruced up their offering to stay competitive in the market. Interesting twist here. We've been talking about this a lot recently, where we see what we would say emulations of other brands from other companies. We've seen the Pan shotgun shooting experience that was very similar to what we've seen with Clay's. Now we have Fair Play, which is offering a carnival experience, number of specially themed carnival games in a location with a snack and cocktail component. They're talking about this being the beginning of a major rollout of this. They already have 3 sites in the UK as part of this operation. Anyone that is familiar with our coverage will say that this is very similar to what we've seen with Fair Games. And we will have to wait and see which one of these brands survives, or if it's going to become a little bit litigious between all of these different kinds. I think there's enough blue sky between them that they can separate themselves as being different offerings. I just wonder, as both of them have ambitious rollout plans, if they're going to butt heads at some point.
Yeah, what's interesting is it seems like they went a lot more. Here, I'll throw up. It seems like they went a lot simpler with their games.
Yes.
So a little bit more like, instead of the midway, like full-on midway games, these are like the ones that you would see in the middle. So you're kind of tossing rings onto bottles. You're trying to catch
much more simplistic approach, much more handsy, much more easy to understand what you're doing. Not as big group play. Most of the Fair Games products there, 8 players and 10 players. These ones are more 2s, 3s, and 4-player experiences dotted around. So I would say much wider selection of offerings in a smaller space, but offering a much more fair ground recreation than trying to be its own thing.
Yeah, and by doing all of those things, their capex is probably significantly less than Fair Games, the one that we saw. I mean, you can see there's some good theming here, but that one was it was really immersive theming, and obviously all custom attractions that they had built, custom games, and
that was the mistake that Fair Games made. They perceived that what they were doing was unique and that no one else could do that, and they had to make it super expensively developed. And I think that they shot themselves in the foot, because making a Rolls Royce just to pop down to the shops is not economic. But we will see. Our friends here are going for the low-hanging fruit first, and I think that they're going to build up momentum. Will our friends at Fair Games be able to build up that momentum is another question. Anyway, carrying on, and we have the latest pin stacks opening up. This is an interesting one from my point of view, because it's celebrating PinStack's 10th anniversary. And, I can remember the first PinStacks going in, and PinStacks and Pinstripes and all of the other bowling boutique and entertainment amusement venues were all on our watch list. With Pinstacks, they have a much more wider selection. They don't just have the bowling, they also have the laser tag bumper cars and over 100 amusement pieces in their 53,000 square foot facility. So this is a kind of an outlier facility. This is larger than their norm. But again, it is showing their 10th anniversary. They have 7 sites out there. That's quite a slow rollout process over 10 years. But if they're making a profit and they're doing it right, then, horses for courses. Texas again, though. Anyway, we move to the Shuts and Chuck E. Cheese, rotating out of a particular facility. Their East Indiana site, they've decided not to continue with that, stating that strategic goals the venue doesn't meet. The site has a little bit of a cloud over it that it was involved with a fatal shooting at that locality, and I wouldn't be surprised if the operation feels that the area is not suitable for a children's entertainment venue. But again, these are the things that happen when you run a large chain of operations. Lucy's, beloved North Dakota miniature golf amusement bumper car facility, been going since the 70s. Sadly, the family that runs it lost their patriarch, and his wife is also in ill health, and they've decided that it's time to move on. So they've closed it down, and they're in the process of looking for a buyer. And fingers crossed that the right people with the right heart will move into the area, because reading some of the comments on their Facebook at the news that they would be closing down the sites, this was a beloved, or is a beloved venue in the area, as location-based entertainments do tend to do. Once they have entertained families, then families are very loyal. But again, we wish them a lot of luck in the new owner. And then an interesting one from Guam, this particular mall-based mixed-use entertainment facility, a bit of children's entertainment, a little bit of a food hall area, an indoor amusement park, as they say. They've closed down, and the reason they've stated is the beginning or the continuation of the economic downturn in their business. They've seen impact on their rent going up, astronomical. They've seen also an easing in the number of staff, and the area with the mall in which they're in is also been suffering quite heavily from depletion of retailers. So they're in a location that is in a downturn. They're feeling the economical pressure. I expect to see this kind of thing happening with other venues as we move further into the current financial situation. Well, that's it from me. Anything else to add, Brandon?
Yeah. So one thing I'll just quickly mention here about Lucy's, and this is more of this is more of a cautionary tale than anything else. So I'll go ahead and throw this up on the screen. So I did a quick search on Lucy's amusement park just because I wanted to see. I was like, what kind of attractions are there? And they don't have a website, and okay, that's fine. They're in North Dakota, and they're probably a small community, and I'm sure everybody already knows them anyway. So why do they need a website? They have their Facebook page, lots of great stuff on the Facebook page. But when I clicked on this website link here in the Google My Business section, so the Google Business section on the right, it actually takes me to some third-party company called golfmini.com, and it's obviously an AI-generated image here. It does have their information. It has their hours. I'm assuming probably pulling their hours from Google, even though it's permanently closed. But when I went to golfmini.com, this is clearly just an aggregator for a bunch of different mini golf locations around. It's obviously geolocating me in Arizona right now through the browser, but it's going to give me my different mini golf locations in other places.
It's a TripAdvisor wannabe without the review system. Yeah,
and I guess my cautionary tale here for people is, you've got to make sure. And again, maybe they don't care. Well, one, they don't care because they're closing, but maybe they didn't care in advance. But they've been open since for the last 50 years, and so at least in the last 25. They should have been very careful to manage this website.
I don't think they've. I had to work very hard to grab those pictures that I used in my slides. It took forever to dig out their logo. So I don't think marketing and branding has been top of their list.
No, certainly not.
Whoever takes over the facility better learn those lessons quickly.
Yeah, and I think it's more of that learning that lesson is that if you're not controlling that, somebody else, a third party, come in and they can update that and get that in there if you haven't claimed those things. And so anyway, it's just especially as you're developing a new location or starting a new concept, claim those things as early as possible so that somebody else, some third party, can't come in and cause ruckus.
And there's a danger that if you have a unique brand down the line, if you can't show that you've protected, fought for, and defended your brand, someone else can come in and eat your lunch. So, being a mum and pop's operation has a certain nostalgia to it, but this is a hard world we're living in now.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, thanks, Kevin. And that wraps up our open and shut.
See you later.
All right. Well, that was awesome. And coming up next, we've got promo pro tips with Chuck DeMonte.
Hello and welcome to Promo Pro Tips with Chuck DeMonte. That is me. And today I want to cover the top piece of any traditional marketing funnel, that is awareness. And so for those of you that are not familiar, a marketing funnel typically has 4 or 5 stages, right? So you have awareness. That is the very top of the funnel. People need to know about you, and that's what we're going to focus on, right? And so I'll circle back to that in a second. But you have awareness, you have consideration, purchase, they become a customer, right? You got retention, and then you got advocacy, okay? They talk about you, word of mouth, give you good reviews, right? So let's talk about the very top of the funnel. I really don't care if you're doing digital, physical, if you're an e-commerce, if you're a family entertainment center, right? Awareness is the very first thing top of funnel, no matter how you do marketing, right? People need to be aware of you in order for them to do business with you. And I stress this a lot, but I feel like it doesn't really hit home enough for people, right? Sometimes I feel like when you're talking about marketing, people think it's like a misleading thing, or you're trying to sort of make marketing easier, right? It's awareness. People need to know about you. It's very logical. If somebody's going to come into your location and do business with you, they need to be aware of you, right? So here are 5 great ways, okay, that you can improve your awareness. And most of these are low cost ways. I like to try and think of ways that if you were, a sort of, owner operator on a budget, what would it look like to, get more awareness and stay within a good marketing budget. So the first one is meta ads, right? So Meta, if you're familiar with it, or really any social media marketing platform, if you're going to do paid ads, a lot of times they give you different objectives you could choose to do marketing. You can get more link clicks. You can tell it I want more video views. You can tell it I want conversions, right? You're going to go on Meta and do Facebook and Instagram and tell it I want reach, right? Get this in front of as many people as humanly possible in this certain area, in these certain zip codes, this certain demographic, right? And the cost is phenomenal. So you look at something, there's a typical we call a key performance indicator or metric called CPM. That's cost per milli, right? So that basically means the cost per every 1,000 impressions, right? And take that a step further, an impression could be, I could be one view, one person, but have 10 impressions. I could see something 10 times, right? So it's you reached one person, but they got 10 impressions. So you'd have 10 impressions. So it's cost per milli. So it's per 1,000 impressions, right? And so typically on a Meta, you're going to be pretty low. $1 or $2 for 1,000 impressions, right? That's one of the reasons why social media has been so impactful, because of the low cost of it. You can get in front of people at such a cheap cost, right? And so it's easy to put together ads. These are the easiest ads you could run on Meta, right? They don't take a lot of knowledge, and that's how you're going to get in front of people. You can spend $200, $300, $400, $500 a month and get in front of a ton of people. Okay, so Meta ads, one of the best ways. Second, I have organic engagement. Now, this is not as wide reaching, let's say, as meta ads, but literally going on Instagram and joining in the conversation, commenting on people's photos, following people, right? This is a great way to sort of get the name out, get your name out there. They're going to see, XYZ trampoline park followed me, or right, this arcade and bar followed me, or like my photo. Let me look back at them. Let me look. Oh, I didn't know this place was around me, and oh, they have these cool attractions. And so it's just a great way to get your name out there, right? It's little by little, but if you do this 10 minutes a day, it makes a huge, huge impact. That one's all about consistency, right? But if you're on a budget, it's a great way to continue to get your name out there. Again, the first stage of the funnel, people knowing about you, great way to do it. A third way would be influencers. Now, influencers, a lot of time you can barter with them, right? Give them a birthday party, give them event, tickets, whatever, right? But there's all of these, local places, and they're a lot of times they're common names. It'll be like, food and your city name, right? Like, I don't know. A lot of times they have common words, right? And so they have a ton of followers. You can get so much exposure locally by just having them come down and shoot a video with you. And now here's the really great part about that. You can let them know you want to continue to use that asset, and now put those reach ads using the asset that they created and gave you, right? It's going to be third-party validation. You can be getting more eyeballs on it. So, it's a win-win all around. And again, a lot of times the influencers aren't going to break the budget, but even if you paid them $1,000, let's say, which would be a lot of money, right? You have a great asset that you're going to get, and you're going to get their exposure. And you could use that asset even further. So it's money well spent, in my opinion. So that's 3 so far: meta ads, organic engagement, influencer marketing. The next one is a community event. Throw a community event. If you're first opening, obviously try and get a grand opening, event going, get as much exposure as possible. But let's say you're open for a while and you want to give yourself a boost. I would highly consider throwing a free community event, right? And so I would look at it as a marketing cost. Not like you lost money that day. Look at it as a marketing cost, right? Pick a certain demographic of your local market, right? Of people that, you feel will continue to come back. Maybe it's teachers, maybe it's first responders. I don't know, get creative there, but have a literally completely free event for them. Right. But just, you're going to have to put some effort and thought into how do you promote this event, and how do you get in front of these people, and how do you invite these people, right? There's different strategies for that. But again, if you have 100, 200 people, in your location one day for free, that's going to be 200 people that could word of mouth and get more, exposure into your community, right? There's a lot of power in that. Okay. And then the last one, more of a physical one, we like every door direct mailers. Again, I don't do this that much these days unless people have a decent amount of a media spend sort of budget. I'd rather put that into digital, but that's not to say that there's not good value here, right? I think at last, last sort of formula was, it was, I want to say it was $1 maybe, or not even that, but it's fairly cheap. I don't remember off the top of my head, sorry, in terms of how much it costs to send out per flyer per home, right? But you can get into 1,000, 2,000 homes at, let's call it $1,000, right? So it's really cost effective, and you can get a nice big flyer into somebody's home. And what's great about that is it's sort of the road less traveled these days, right? People aren't getting as much mailers into their homes. A lot of this stuff is digital, so it's gonna be a little less of a crowded marketplace, easier to stand out, right? And I wouldn't get too worried about tracking conversions on this and let's put a code on it and see how many people bring back the flyer. All you're trying to do is that top of funnel awareness, right? I cannot stress how important it is. Awareness, 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 awareness. Okay. So I hope that helps. Obviously get creative. There's other ways you can get awareness, but awareness is the top of the funnel that people need to know about you before they're going to do business with you. So I hope that helps, and go get some awareness on your location.
If you run a location-based entertainment brand and want to attract more visitors, check out Radius. They use real-time location data and customized marketing strategies to help brands like yours stand out. Radius can boost your foot traffic and build a loyal customer base. Plus, they're offering a complimentary local market analysis to show you exactly how they can help you grow. Curious? Visit radius.co and ask about your free market analysis. That's RAYDIUS.co.
All right. Well, thanks for that, Chuck. And yeah, awareness, as you said multiple times, is, I'm glad I wasn't doing a drinking game, by the way, for the word awareness. But what I took away from that was that it's essential, first of all, to not just do things that fill the top of the funnel, but you have to do take multiple approaches. So it's a multi-channel approach to generating awareness. So it wasn't just doing meta ads, or it wasn't just doing community events, or just doing some direct mail. It's doing meta ads and community events and direct mail and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you want to cover and build awareness across all the different channels that you could possibly do. Obviously, there's a limit to budget, so you're not going to go take out maybe cover all the billboards in your area unless you absolutely want to, or take out TV ads, local TV ads, or whatever. I mean, those are all good ways to generate awareness as well, but they all require different budget amounts. But the key is to do multiple channels, because some people are going to see you on multiple channels. Some people are going to see you on one channel or another channel. And if you didn't market to that channel, then you're going to miss that potential opportunity for awareness. So anyway, thanks for that great feedback and those great tips there, Chuck. Coming up next, we've got Arcade Corner with some Adam Pratt.
Greetings, it's Adam for the Arcade Corner here at the LBX Collective. I hope you've all had a great April as we get out of that and soon are going to be into May. Last week I spent a bit of time discussing pinball machines, and I'd been hoping to discuss the Harry Potter pinball machine, which we know is coming from Jersey Jack Pinball. But as of this recording, they still haven't decided to unveil it. And so perhaps between Dune and King Kong from their competitors, they decided to let that kind of just soak up the headlines for a little bit, and then they'll hit with their own thing here soon. But as you can see on the screen, we do have some other stuff to talk about in the arcade world, such as this game, Hot Wheels, as it is currently known. Now, aside from this photo, I haven't heard anything else about it. I've tried contacting Adrenaline Amusements, who is the manufacturer of this game. There's a manual out there, although it's incomplete. It's mostly copied and pasted from the Need for Speed Heat Takedown Deluxe manual, which is, if this cabinet looks familiar, that's because it's the same design as NFS Heat Takedown Deluxe, but with the new artwork from Hot Wheels, licensing from Mattel and all that. Now, I've been trying to find out if there is somewhere where they are testing this game, but so far my spies out there have not found anything to share in that regard. But generally speaking, when Adrenaline Amusements puts out a manual in their support stuff, that means that it is testing somewhere, so that way if the location where it's testing needs something from a technical point of view, then they are able to capture that or able to refer to that manual for it. But my assumption would be that this would be a game that's been heavily modified from an existing console game. Currently, Hot Wheels Unleashed 2 is the more recent Hot Wheels racing game that you can get on Steam. But while I'm generally not a big fan of console ports to arcades and vice versa, for reasons of it generally hurting earnings, with NFS Heat Takedown, Adrenaline changed the game so much that it really wasn't fair to call it the same game, and that's where they added Takedown to it, as it plays very differently from the console version. And so as long as they take that same approach to this, assuming it is based on Hot Wheels Unleashed 2, then I'd have nothing to complain about, because again, it would be, not only will it have the arcade editions such as the controls and the motion seat, and it would also have different content, as unfortunately, as I've witnessed over and over and over again, even when the content is different, sometimes people will maybe refrain from swiping their card or putting in tokens into a game if they think that it's the same thing at home. I see this all the time with Minecraft Dungeons Arcade. Even though the content is completely different and it vends cards, I can't tell you how many times I've overheard, well, we have Minecraft at home. So when because the kids want to play, they don't care. They just see Minecraft. But Yeah, it's one of those things that I mean, it helps to still have that extra content, so that way, if you don't have the well, we have Hot Wheels at home sort of thing happen, and they play it, and it's like, oh, okay, this is different. But when this is going to be coming out, no idea. If it will reach full production, no idea. This was not at the Adrenaline Amusements booth for IAPA or Amusement Expo. I don't know if there was any Adrenaline product at Deal over in Dubai, but this certainly wasn't there as a part of that. So we'll just keep our eyes peeled for anything else, and hopefully we'll get some more details on it soon. But it looks like this is coming. I would guess at this point maybe summertime, maybe fall. Perhaps that's why they didn't bring it to Amusement Expo, was that it wasn't ready yet for summertime. Just testing. Now, for something that you otherwise cannot get if you aren't Dave and Buster's, that would be this game here, UFC Challenge. And interestingly enough, this also has an Adrenaline Amusements connection to it. And so right before Amusement Expo, Dave & Buster's put out a press release announcing this UFC Challenge game was coming to all of their locations. And in the press release, they named 4 different companies that are behind this, and Adrenaline Amusements is one of them. Now, of course, because this is designed specifically for Dave & Buster's, as Dave & Buster's has a UFC sponsorship or partnership, then that's why they wouldn't bring this to a trade show where they can't sell it to anybody else. However, it's interesting to note that if you were interested in this concept without the UFC branding on it or the more elaborate setup, this game already exists, and it has been available, or the base game, I should say, has been available since 2022. And so as I filmed at IAPA 2022, this was first called Hit the Green, where any target, including the knee pad one, if it's green, you're supposed to punch it. But in, I think it was 2023, that's when we saw the evolution of this called MMA Boxer, where exact same setup as far as the punch pads go, but they improved the cabinet. I mean, they added MMA to it. Even though it's not a thing officially licensed, of course, MMA doesn't, it's brand, it's just mixed martial arts. But they added this LED screen to it, which plays all these kind of GIFs or memes as that deal with punching and all that. And so, if you wanted to have something like UFC Challenge for your arcade, you could buy 2 MMA Boxers. Those are available from IGPM Group. I should say that the manufacturer of these games is a Polish company called Calcamat. But IGPM Group is their official representative in North America for all that. And again, simple game, just an evolution of the Boxer concept. And in my opinion, a little better because there's a little bit more depth to it than just hitting a punching bag once and then calling that a day, being able to hit just the green targets over and over again. But I would have to assume that the UFC branding on this would be more significant and draw more attention than, say, just the more generic MMA sort of thing going on there. But that's pretty much the news for now. I've had a lot to get into over the past few arcade corners and pushing my time limits to their maximum. But as far as this week goes, it's been a little bit more subdued. Now I am gathering details on different games that were unveiled at Amusement Expo. and doing some additional posts on them. I recently posted about my DX from Sega, which is the washing machine rhythm game. It's not a washing machine, just kind of looks like one. But that one is still on track to be launching here at the end of the summertime, so around August, September. I did find out from Sega that it's actually being manufactured in South Korea. And so that would avoid any potential tariffs from China. There, of course, I know there are some tariffs on Korea. However, with it's still a dynamic situation where things changing in that regard. And so by the time my DX comes out, perhaps just a new trade deal is in place between the two countries, and then it wouldn't affect the price much on that one. But it already, as I told a commenter on YouTube, if it adds $500 or $1,000 to the overall cost, if you're already invested in spending $31,000 on a game, an extra $1,000 or $2,000 is probably not going to dissuade you much. Now, if it was, say, $10,000, then sure, that could be a game changer there. I'm sure. And of course, I don't personally want to be spending more on games. And fortunately, there are still some options out there that are falling below the $10,000 mark, but that's still rare. It's been rare for the past few years, really since 2020. But you can still find them if you know where to look, from which manufacturers to look to. But we still won't know all the ins and outs of pricing probably for a little while here. Aside from things that were already purchased pre-tariffs, I've seen several of the Chinese importers or the Chinese game importers, such as Amusement Source International and Attractions and More, playing up the fact that they do have a lot of product that they got in stock before any tariffs, and so they wouldn't have to put that pricing on those products as long as they're still available. Yeah, just one of those things, as we've already talked about, to adapt to. But overall, I guess really quick for me to just throw out there and fill up some time is, as far as business has gone, last month was pretty good for me at my location in Salt Lake City, Utah. This month has been a little bit of a mixed bag, where the first half of the month did really well, and then the second half of the month hasn't been so great. Part of that is just because there were some odd spring break dates this with the different school districts. Like some had it in March, some had it in April. Don't know why they were all over the place this year compared to previous years. And then, of course, Easter happened a lot later than usual this year. Usually April is not that great of a month for me traditionally, but this year, again, like I said, it's been kind of a mixed bag. And generally speaking, May is not a great month for me either. So that's what I'm bracing myself for. But over the past few years, everything's been all over the place and it hasn't really followed a pattern. So as far as I know, May could end up being my best month of the year for some reason. I just don't know yet. But we will see, I guess, depending on what types of movies come out and if they really bring people out, or if the trend continues where people are just going to sit in there and wait for streaming. I don't know. But thank you for watching this episode of Arcade Corner. Stay tuned for the next segment. And of course, I'll be here next week and we'll see you around.
All right. Yeah. So interesting about the UFC. I talked with Adam, knew that was coming down the line. But the UFC machine for Dave & Buster's is much, much more in line with their existing business. This has been one of my biggest conundrums. I mean, I understand that Dave & Buster's was trying to make a shift and make a pivot with with adding the Game Vault pieces in from the conductor. So the arena and the shuffleboard and the darts, the darts weren't from Game Vault, but they were trying to add these social bays, and they went and did a lot of them. They added them a lot, and obviously some of that stuff's going to likely be unwound as a result of the leadership changes at Dave & Buster's. But this UFC machine is this is exactly what they should be doing. It's in their arcade wheelhouse. It's adding a level of interactivity. It's adding competition. So you still have some of that competition, but it's faster gameplay, more repeat gameplay. And it's aligned with their watch tagline as well with UFC. So I can now go play the game, and I can go watch a UFC game with my buddies, and then go play the game again, get some aggression out. So I'm glad to see that they've gone down this path. I hope this is the type of innovation that they continue to ask their partners to help them with going forward, versus trying to wholesale change their model without doing a lot of the other really heavy lifting and branding and everything else that has to be done in order to make a shift from a barcade, basically a sports barcade, to this competitive socializing venue without really doing anything to change the perception out there in the market. So anyway, thanks for covering that, Adam. Coming up next, we have Game On with Justin Michaels. So excited to sit down with Justin and talk a little bit about cranes. All right. Well, welcome.
Hey, thanks, Brandon. Happy Friday.
Like your first official bumper. You Game On, Justin Michaels.
I'm excited. Happy to be here.
It's awesome. All right. Well, so today, what are we talking about today?
We're going to talk about cranes today. Kind of mix it up a little bit. Talk about some different types of cranes and just tips for maximizing revenues.
Awesome. All right. Well, cool. Let's. I guess we'll dive into it.
Sure. So this is a saying that I lifted a long time ago. I think it came probably from the casino gaming space. I'd heard winners make players, but that's really true. I think naturally the consumer kind of considers a crane to be maybe a ripoff in certain situations. Maybe it's a fixed thing. But the reality is good operators want their players to win. We talked last time when I was on about payout and cost of goods and that sort of thing. And with redemption, it's typically around 10 to 15% of redemption sales is what you're giving away. And with cranes, it's a little bit higher. Most operators shoot for more like a 25% payout. So you want folks to win. It's just a percentage payout. And then there's different kind of ways to set it up in different types of scenarios with cranes. Instant win or winner every time is a really popular one. You see knobby balls and candy crane and duck cranes. And really the idea behind instant win and win every time is that the customer is going to win every time or most of the time. So these machines are typically set up to pay out around $1. And you're giving away a prize that's anywhere from like 20 to 25 cents. So a lot of times these kids or the player think that the crane is broken. But in reality, the operator is, charging $1 and giving away a 20-cent item. So these are great cranes. I see these a lot in restaurants and, places where they don't have the space to put in a game room, but they have room for some machines like this and they can earn really, really well. So instant wins, it's a winner.
Yeah, and it's always fun, especially when my kids were younger. The duck crane was one of their favorite things, and you just knew it was going to be like an easy one. Like, okay, kids, here's $1. You go drop it in, and they're going to get something. They're going to get excited. Now they may not get the duck that they wanted. Maybe they'll get a duplicate or something. But they'll always get something, and they would get so excited about it. And they had like ducks lined up on their dressers, and so definitely, like, I love the instant win for sure. And I think back to there's Skateland. I used to go to roller rink here and in Mesa, and I would go not very often, but I'd go with some friends or whenever school was going, and they always had these cranes, and they're these shitty cranes, and I would spend like $20 on these cranes and like maybe come back with a plush. And so I definitely like where the crane, like the operator / crane culture has shifted to, from these really like shady super, this is like, we're talking like, we're going like 35 years back, like 35 years now. But, these really shady cranes and, done by, these, there's probably a route operator coming through and doing it. And, I like where the culture has shifted.
Agreed. And, with ducks, it's funny you mentioned that because you've probably seen this with the jeeping community folks that own Jeeps. They
Oh, yeah.
collect these ducks, and you'll see Jeeps in parking lots with ducks all across, glued to the dash. But it's kind of funny, it's collectible. And to your point too, my kids have a lot of this stuff, tucked away in a bin or somewhere here, but
Yep.
I'm with you. I think it's great when people can win, and I like where the culture's gone as well. And then just on to theming and branding merchandise. So, the knobby ball has been really popular. Everyone's seen a knobby ball, but a lot of these distributor partners can brand that ball for you with your logo. So, some free marketing. Your kids are leaving, bouncing those balls around. It has your logo on it. It's a really inexpensive way to kind of get your brand out there and have the guests take it home with you. The other two cranes here pictured, these are Family Entertainment Group cranes. I think people know George Smith, and he's a great operator and a lot of big resorts. But Lisa is really in charge of a lot of this for his team, and she does a great job designing her own generic plush line and then theming out the cranes. So some signage can go a long way. Who doesn't want a turtle burger or a Dino Nug plush? It's just a cheap, inexpensive, piece of plush, but you merchandise it properly and throw up some signage, and it really goes a long way, because cranes are an impulse thing in a lot of ways. People walk by and they see it and they're attracted and they want to play. So a little bit of theming goes a long way.
Yeah. Barry Zellickson and I recently visited. We were in Vegas for Amusement Expo, and then we went and check out Swingers. And Swingers has like a little arcade. They call it the Carnival, the little arcade up in the second story. And one of the things that we really thought was well done was not only was all of the redemption, it was basically all branded, like all themed. Like you couldn't get just like generic redemption items. And now granted, it's for adults, so it's like a 21 and over venue. But the cranes that they had also were laid out, or you could you could win a plush, but it was a branded plush for Swingers. And it was something that obviously I'm going to take. And anyway, I think having the theme, having the brand, you don't want to fill all your cranes with that stuff, but having one or something that's out there that you can get that branded, especially if you have a mascot, you can actually win that mascot, would be pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And then licenses, of course, Minecraft is out right now, the movie, and haven't had a chance to take my kids to it yet. They've been asking, but hitting on the timing of these licenses, especially like with my cinema customers in the cinema entertainment space, timing these licenses with the release of movies is huge for them. But there's a lot of licenses that are just tried and true that I've seen over the years. Marvel's one, but SpongeBob is still popular. Pokemon especially has really withstood the test of time. So, taking advantage of hot licenses is a good way to boost revenue. You got to be careful, because this merchandise is going to cost more than generic licenses. So making sure that if you are switching out from a generic piece of plush, that your crane is percentage to pay out correctly is a big part of it. But yeah, you can never go wrong with hot licenses.
And you've got to get to see Minecraft, man.
Is it good? I bet it's good.
Do it. Well, I mean, I wouldn't say it's a good movie. It's an entertaining movie, and your kids will like it. So
okay,
good. Your kids will have
fun. We're movie people. We still like going to the movies.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. Just watch out for chicken jockey. That's all you got to worry
about. And then ticket cranes. The introduction of ticket cranes into the marketplace has been huge. A lot of times these cranes are at the top of the list when it comes to earners. But you're converting a crane into a redemption game is what you're doing here. So, they're paying out, points. So it is a redemption game. The picture on the far right is actually a fantastic prize, which is a cutter. So it's more of a form of a self-merchandiser. A lot of times operators will run like a large piece of licensed plush in there, or they'll do a bundle with some electronics. I've seen it themed out with, merchandise as well, where you kind of win everything. But I've seen a lot of folks going to the ticket. So they'll have a large ticket printed like that, and they'll brand it, and it does really, really well. So it's kind of interesting to see how it's evolved into a redemption game as well. You get the fun of the skill of playing the crane, but it's going to pay you out points as well. These are great machines, always great earners.
Yeah, you always see people walking around with the big rings, especially the big ones. The big ones are a lot of fun. Have you ever successfully won a cut to win?
I have not. I have not. My kids have tried, but I see that people do win a lot. They're posting it on social. That's a good thing too. You can post all your winners on Facebook and social, and then in the facility too, I've seen them put up pictures like in and around the machine of people that have won. So promoting it as well is very important.
Yeah, no, I know people win. I'm terrible. I am not. It's not my game.
And then the introduction of crane rooms. So this is actually James Pepion's one of his Claw City locations. He's an Intercard customer and great operator. But you just look at this space, all the LED lights. I've seen in some of them where he'll line the ceiling with more LEDs, but in this, they've themed it with giant ducks, rubber ducks, and balls, and just looks great. I used to have a saying when I was talking about cranes that nobody really woke up saying, I'm going to go play a crane machine today. I'm sure there was some kid that woke up and did say, hey, I'm going to go play a crane today. But with the introduction of these crane rooms, I mean, it's a standalone attraction. So there are people waking up saying, hey, I'm going to go play cranes at Claw City. But again, if you look at it, it's all merchandise, great, different product. It's just very inviting, and it's gonna drive people to play for sure.
Yeah, the crane rooms and just the crane has created a crane culture, and so kids are now waking up, and not just kids, like adults are waking up and intending to go and play cranes, or go play the crane because they want to win that one. They've won this one and this one and this one, and now they got to get this plush, right? Because the collector's items all the way down the line. This is a really unique ceiling as well. This is really well done. I haven't seen, you've seen people play with putting stuff on their ceilings, but this is it's very well done. I bet it actually helps a lot with noise cancellation, noise suppression as well.
Yeah, I bet it does too. But just taking the time, to theme out not only your cranes, but the space. I mean, it just looks incredible to me. Mm-hmm. It's exciting. I mean, that makes me want to go in there and spend some money,
Yeah, for sure.
And then just to kind of wrap up here, just some tips for maximizing revenue. It's all about location, right? You got to have the foot traffic. A lot of times you'll see cranes and self-merchandising machines away from the arcade, or you'll have some in the arcade, but you'll have some through main entrances and exits. It's the incremental dollar. It's do you want fries with that? On your way out, you can grab a few more bucks from the guest, or on the way in. So having it in the right location is always important. And then you kind of hit on this when you were talking about being a kid, and I would go into some casual dining places. I don't want to pick on any brands, but you'd have a dirty crane there as you're exiting with some lousy product just kind of thrown in there, and nobody wants to play that, so keeping it clean, keeping it running, and properly. Kind of hit on this earlier, but stadium style, you could see in the crane room. Think of a theater. It's stacked higher in the back and down, all the eyes facing forward. You don't want to just throw it in there. People are going to be able to win it quicker. The idea is to pack it in there, but not so tight that people can't win. You want to throw like a few teaser pieces on top so the guests can kind of pick away at it slowly. So merchandising it properly is huge. And then probably the biggest thing that I would recommend is regular rotation on merchandise. I would have customers tell me, oh, this crane doesn't do very well. And I'm asking them, well, what kind of product? Well, we've always run this generic mix. And, that's a good mix. But if it's been in there for 2 years and you have a lot of regular customers coming in, they're not going to get excited about it. So holidays, Christmas, even Valentine's Day was big. A lot of times theming it out for Valentine's Day and other holidays, 4th of July, Halloween especially was always a good one. And then we hit on this a little bit, the movies, coinciding with the release of hot movies, licenses are always great. So just regular rotation is huge, but these little things will really make a difference in the long run in terms of your revenue. I've seen it firsthand. So
yeah, we talked about this. We talked about this before with even not we, but on the show about even just moving your game floor around, right? So but doing that in conjunction with a particular movie title, or so if a movie is out. So if you have Minecraft, and you want to move that towards the front or somewhere where people are going to see it, and so yeah, definitely making sure that your game floor, but also your cranes are merchandised properly according to what's going on in popular culture today.
Yeah, the other thing I'd add to Round One is a customer of ours, Family Entertainment Group, and I've seen this firsthand when I've been in the facility when it's busy. They have staff running around filling the cranes. Sometimes people are short-handed on a Saturday, and by the end of the day, the crane isn't full any longer. So if you can, staff it where you can have people filling the crane as people are winning during your busy times. That's going to make a big difference too. So
yeah, great. All right, well, this was awesome, Justin. And I guess we'll see you on the next Game On. Intercart is the only cashless system designed, developed, and manufactured all under one roof. They introduced cashless technology to the amusement industry and have been leading the way for over 30 years. Cashless systems from Intercart increase customer spending, guest satisfaction, and boost revenues by up to 30%. Intercart is so proud to be serving the amusement industry, and if you aren't already part of their global family of customers, they hope you will become one soon. All right, well, that is about it. We do have, I want to quick talk a little bit about LBX Galaxy. Just a reminder, if you want to join our community online where you can connect with other operators and manufacturers, suppliers, etc., join our LBX Galaxy at lbxgalaxy.com or scan the QR code that is here. Otherwise, we've got a sound off with Kevin Williams coming on Tuesday, April 29th at its normal time, 10 a.m. Pacific. And that is a wrap for this week's LBX show. I'm Brandon Wiley, signing off. Stay tuned and keep kicking ass.